Welcome, everyone, to another presentation by Red Bluff Battle Reports. We have Bilbo Göransson with us again. We're titling this The Last Ride into Nephilim with Bilbo as he gets ready to take on LVO X or LVO 10. So he had a long trip today, so we're going to try and keep this a little short, but let's start off running. So it's The Last Ride in Nephilim mission pack. What has defined your Gene Stealer Colts experience the last 6 months or so?
Well, I think the biggest thing during the last 6 months has been the armor contempt that is now going away. So the last 6 months have really been about how do you fight armor contempt, and especially for an army that is based around AP1 or AP2 weapons like seismic cannons. You really need to skew into that meta. So a lot of people were bringing 10 Terminators, 20 Terminators, even more Terminators, and at the end of the Nephilim era, we also had the Votan that have their armor contempt built into them. So skewing into something that can take on armor contempt 2+ saves was really big, I think, for the Gene Stealers, and especially for me. And a lot of people, at least where I play, were really they had their Space Marine armies on the shelf waiting to kick some ass, and when armor contempt hit, they put it in. Same goes for Grey Knights, and when Votan came, a lot of people joined in on them too. So I think being able to play without AP or with very low AP and still score maximum or close to maximum primary and secondary points has been really defining the last 6 months. And that was also what made the shift for me when I went from my old list in the Nachmund era. When I played a lot of acolytes with deep strikes, they fought in close combat and tried to take out big units in close combats. I instead moved into neophytes. So those are the small guys, almost like guardsmen, who shoot low AP or no AP guns but instead focusing on crossfire. So not focusing at all at the AP, because that will be taken away anyway, but instead focusing on positioning. How can I get cheap bodies, lots of units, and just bully the opponent with a big what would you call it, wall of bodies, like any cult leader would. Just fill up the board with scoring OBSEC units and make it impossible to maneuver around. So that's more or less how I would define the last 6 months. Other players have seen the Tyranids as the boogeymen.
Yes.
The Chaos Demons with the Flamers and so on. They haven't been hurting the Gene Stealers as bad. Of course, they're a strong opponent and wielded by a skilled player. Any army, I mean, even from the bottom of the barrel, like Death Guard or Grey Knights, there's still forces to be reckoned with. But I think demons are a harder matchup for a lot of other armies than for Gene Stealer Cult, and the same goes for Tyranids. So that's it.
Perfect. So as people may know, everyone knows you are from Sweden, so you've come quite a distance to LVO. So kind of I'm not an expert here, but I'm going to try and form the question correctly. So you're coming over from Sweden. How do you tailor your list? Are you coming to have fun? You coming to win? What the meta versus where you're from versus LVO? Do you do any kind of research coming into this? And how do you practice to get ready for something that's not, say, prevalent in your area, a meta that's not? So hopefully I formed that question well.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a very wide question. So I think a lot of the people in my area who play Warhammer 40,000 look at the international scene and what could be brought and what did well in the big tournaments in England, Spain, and the US. So I don't really skew into the big. I mean, I don't think there's a big threat of a meta that doesn't exist in my area, but exists in Vegas. I don't think so. A good list, I think, is an all-comers list. That means an army that can take on anything from Harlequins to Grey Knights to Death Guard to Tyranids and even Astra Militarum. So I don't really skew. I think of any threat and try to have at least one tool into them, and that's also why I really like the neophytes, because they have different profiles. They can have stronger shots or weaker shots. They can be objective grabbers. They can be screens. So any unit that can be used in several different ways, like the Patriarch, which is the warlord of the Genestealer Cult's army. It can either be a buffing character or a beat stick, and it can swap between the turns. So maybe it starts as a buffing character, moves up to a mortal wound support character, and then a beat stick turn 4 and 5. So any unit, I think, that can do several things is also going to be stronger into a meta that I don't really know. Because when you're up against, I think it's now 970 people attending the LVO.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
I could play 5 games into orcs, 6 games into orcs, or I could play 6 games into 6 completely different armies, or I could play 6 mirror matches, only Genestealer cults, because there's 18 of us bringing the Genestealer cult, so we never know. So it's always best, I think, to look at what tools we have in the toolbox and think about which tool has the most versatility. Like there's an upgrade it's mainly used on the Genestealer, pure strain Genestealer unit, where you can choose in the beginning of the game, when you know who goes first, you can choose if you want your Genestealers, for instance, to move twice, or if you want them to go back into deep strike. So the versatility of being able to choose that, and even after you know who goes first and who goes second, it really adds a tool that you couldn't have otherwise. So all of these, it gives you more choices, which is harder than just running your Blood Angels or Custodes right into the face of the enemy. But in the hands of a skilled opponent, and I'm not saying that I'm at all skilled at this game, but in the hands of a skilled player, more versatility should mean more wins. That's my philosophy, at least.
Right.
And then you didn't say this now, but we spoke a bit earlier about, I mean, when you travel far, you don't want to bring too many models. So I know a lot of people who travel from abroad, and they bring Custodes, for instance, because then you have maybe 20 models in your whole army. And I have, I think, 140 or something.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It is on the other scale of things, let's say that. But I put, it's not fluff, because I think I have a competitive list, but I want a list that plays the way I want to play this game, with a lot of mind games, making the opponent second guess, not being really sure what to do next, and so on, analysis paralysis. And if that means that I have to bring this big box, I'm carrying around this big box on all of these transfer flights. Everyone asks me, "Oh, the cake is for us." Like I'm the butt of the joke on every airport, on every plane, for bringing this big box of models. But I'm totally fine with it, because this is the hobby I love, and this is the army that I want to play. So I could have brought like only aberrants or something, like anything that is easier to carry, or just some other army. Bringing a horde army, I don't know how many Americans actually know this, but traveling from like New York, for instance, to Vegas or Los Angeles, the distance you travel is as big as from the East Coast to London to Europe. So it's and I traveled both of those. from Sweden to here, it's like it's a very long trip. So I really have to think about what to bring and so on. What can I leave at home? But at heart, I'm a Warhammer 40,000 player, and I should bring what makes Warhammer 40,000 fun and rewarding for me. And this time it's a very big horde of neophytes and acolytes and gene stealers. So that's what I brought.
And the army made it safely?
Yes, very safely. I actually brought it on. That's why because I had so many transfer flights, I didn't want to put it. I didn't want to check it in, so I brought it into the plane. Which, yeah, maybe the box is a little bit bigger than it's supposed to as a carry-on luggage.
Yeah,
but I just couldn't risk the box being like sent to some other airport or being delayed or left somewhere. So I really wanted my eyes on it for as much as possible.
Understandable. So not the meta, but I don't know. I don't play in Europe. Have they started shifting to more player place terrain, or is that something you have to account for coming over to LVO?
Actually, it's very fun. Last year was my first LVO, and it was the first time I played with player place terrain, as I told you. And when I came back to Stockholm, I thought it was so cool with player place terrain. So my local club started using player place terrain, and now it's the most used terrain setup system in my city. It's like the biggest, like all the big tournaments in my city now has player place terrain because of this. So I brought it from you guys in a way.
Perfect. So you've been practicing, so you're good.
So yeah, the last year I've been practicing a lot with player place terrain. It's not the same terrain, but it's the same idea that you take turns putting the terrains out. You know which side of the board you're going to play on, and so on. So very, very similar. It's not 100% the same, but it's similar enough, and I think it's the best way to play 40K.
Perfect. So you touched on it briefly, so we'll just keep this question shorter so it doesn't take up a lot of time. So I looked it up. It's about 8,552 kilometers or 5,314 miles, the distance. How do you acclimate yourself or get ready? Because you're not going to show up on Friday and be like, okay, I'm ready to roll. Do you have any advice for someone who's going to travel a long distance on how to best prepare for a tournament?
Yeah, I do. I think it's to sleep. Actually, I traveled in now. I took an extra day of vacation so that I can arrive here and sleep through my jet lag, so that I don't so that I'm not totally destroyed on the first day of the tournament. And I can't stress that enough. Last year I had too little time to rest. I was actually very tired during the tournament. I still had a great time. I had the best time in any 40K event ever. I met a lot of cool people, including you.
It was awesome. It was awesome meeting you.
Fantastic. Such a good time. And the Vanguard Tactics workshop was also really, really good. I would advise anyone who has the possibility, both time and money, to take them on. I think this time, because I was the layovers are so weird, so I slept 1 hour the night when I left, and then because of time difference, I slept 1 more hour. So I slept 2 hours in 48 hours. So getting 1 night of good sleep before the tournament, after that, is absolutely crucial, because otherwise you're standing up for 10 or 12 hours straight. You won't have a good time, and that's at the heart of it. That's what the game is about. You're there to spend time with another person who also loves this game. Win or lose, you're supposed to have a good time with that person. Yep. Or if that person is not having a good time, at least you should have a good time. But if you're so tired that you can barely see straight, everything you can think about is going to sleep, then you won't have a good time. So get well prepared, yes, but have as many practice games before traveling as possible, and then when you arrive, focus on getting one good night's sleep. That's my best advice, I think. And that's coming from someone who knows what the opposite looks like.
Yeah.
Your eyes are going like cross. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year at LVO, playing you in that workshop was the first time I played against GSC, and I was like, whoa, all my models are disappearing. What's happening? You're like, I'm going to show you what they can do. And my models went bye-bye. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still hope you had a good time.
Oh, it was great. It was great. You were great. And we got him. We made a connection. And I was like, hey, I told my friends all about you. And I came back and I'm like, this guy's amazing. He taught me a lot about the GSC. And then you graciously took up our invite to do some inside looks. So real quick, looking back 6 months ago, we talked when this fancy little book first came out about, the Blur Effect, Nephilim, about how you thought GSC would do. Did it come out as expected, or were there a couple surprise missions, or did they perform like you predicted?
I can't really remember what I said.
You said you thought they do pretty well on the most missions, and because of how it was set up, you thought you do pretty well. So
yeah, I think they have done pretty well. I haven't seen that they've won any big tournaments, so they're not broken. But right. I think when you play again, because so few people play them, you can always surprise people, and that's a power that you should, if you're going to pick this army up. I always try to tell every rule, every gotcha rule, every rule that could actually trick someone.
Yeah.
I try to tell it twice before the game starts so that they don't get, it's a confusing army. So I say, all right, these can deep strike 6 inches away and they will shoot you. These will deep strike 1 inch away and they will do this instead, and so on. So I don't want people to get tricked by me. I want them to maybe get tricked by the army, but not by me. I don't want them to have a bad time. So that's, as long as you do that, I think most people have a chance against Gene Stealer cults. And if you don't do that, if you don't play nice with Gene Stealers, and there's actually no rules saying that you have to. I think that's the way Warhammer is supposed to work, but it's very easy to trick people into traps with this army. Just not saying that, I can put out. It's like there's this one trap rule that I always forget, and it's the Custodes have the bomb, the grenade,
Tanglefoot.
The Tanglefoot grenade. I always forget about it. I always hate it. It always comes up. It always ruins my games against Custodes. If you have that kind of trick, I think you should tell your opponent once or twice before the game starts that this will come up. And Gene Stealers are actually an army full of that kind of tricks, and not only in the stratagems, but they have the warlord traits. They have the weird bodyguard rule where you pass off wounds from the characters so they never die. Just the goons die instead. They can resurrect guys in even better way than Necrons. They have great spells. They have the fight last. They have the crossfire, so you get +1 to wound on everything, +1 to hit on everything, and +1 to wound on almost everything that you want dead. There's a lot of tricks in this book, so I think they're doing fine. And now moving forward, maybe this is jumping the gun because probably your next question is about this, but moving forward,
Arcs of Omen.
Yeah, Arcs of Omen and no Armor of Contempt is really going to benefit Gene Stealer cults in a big way, because now suddenly our armor penetration 1 and 2 is going to come into full effect. Together with that, we ignore a lot of cover, like light cover and dense cover. I think we're going to have a blast this this upcoming season. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. I was going to ask that next, but so my last question, because we want to keep this short because you got a long flight. So if I remember correctly, at London Grand Tournament, you won Best in Faction, correct? If I remember correctly?
No, there was a Spanish guy, and his name escapes me. A Spanish guy actually went. He got more battle points than me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I thought I saw a little medal you were holding, and I was like,
Yeah, I won a little RTT on the day afterwards.
Oh, that's what it was then. So I
Yeah.
saw the medal. I was like, so what kind of goal do you set for yourself when you come to LVO, like a big tournament like this? Are you coming more to have fun, or you're like, man, I want to win, I want to get top ranked GSC at the end of the season, or is it a mixture of both? Or you just like, I'm gonna win and that's it? Or
Well, I think last year I went 4-2, so I won 4 games, I lost 2 games. It would be fun to win 4 games and lose 2 games again, but I mean that's one of the goals. I have that as one goal, but it's not my main goal, because the best thing about LVO, and this was surprising for me, I got really humbled by how welcoming and fantastic people are playing in the LVO. I mean, 99% of everyone I met were really cool, and some people were exceptionally cool, and I made friends for life. So I think coming here this year is actually, I mean, I'm going to play an honest, tough game against every opponent. I'm not going to give away a win if I'm winning, but I'm here to relive the magic that is the Las Vegas Open. I mean, there are so many good people, so many cool hobbyists, and I'm just looking forward to meeting them and also learning a lot about their factions. It's tough because now we're moving backwards. I already played 2 tournaments with Arcs of Omen, so moving backwards into Armor Content land is actually very strange. But at the same time, you know, it's going to be fantastic to meet these new people. So that's my main goal. I think I will make 1 new friend for life. I think I'm going to have 6 great games, and hopefully I'll win some of them. But that's not my primary goal.
perfect. Well, I'll be keeping an eye out on the places and see how you do. So hopefully you do well, and you'll see some other guys walking around in our new fancy RV. There's like 5 of them out there. So
yeah,
I think you remember Zach from last year, and then
absolutely,
there's
yeah.
4 other guys going to be out there. But
I'm
yeah,
gonna
you're gonna have a great time and go have some fun. And do you have any last words for anyone about the GSC, or any people
I
you'd
think
like to say hi to?
look, I don't want to leave anyone out. I think people have been so cool. I think it's important playing GSC. It's a big, I mean, learning to play it is losing 100 times before you can start winning. It's a very complicated army. And the same thing goes for facing them. So if you face GSC for the first time, don't think that you will automatically crush them. Just try to have a good time, learn as much as possible, and just, you know, think about the opposition is the player on the other side of the table, not the army. So any army in the hands of a good player can be lethal. Any army can win. So just try to learn as much as possible about the army that you're facing, especially if you're facing it for the first time. Everyone has been there, you know, and that's what makes this fantastic changing meta so interesting. You know, every game is a new experience and something you can learn from. That's it.
So we'll keep tracking. Hopefully you do well like you want, and you go get your good night rest, and maybe in a little while down the road we'll check with you with Arcs of Omen, see how that's going, and get some feedback. Always great to have you on here, sir.
I'm looking forward to it already. Take care, guy.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.